So yeah, I read a few books in July. Whoa. So yeah, I had a very productive reading month in July. I participated in 2 readathons, which was the Booktubeathon and the Underhyped Reads readathon. I started and finished 3 series, and I read 26 books, and I have no idea how that happened. But just to keep this video short, I'm going to try not to ramble. And just dive right in. So in no particular order, one of the books I read during the month was All Our Yesterdays by Kristen Terrell. Listen to this on audio, and it's a time-traveling story following a girl and 2 boys. The point of view the story is told from is the girl from the future and the girl in her past. And she and one of the boys travels back in time to prevent the other boy from building this time-traveling device in the first place. And that's a bit of a paradox. You're using the device to travel back in time to prevent the device from being built. I found a couple paradoxes through there. They kind of explain it okay, I guess. But overall, I enjoyed the story and the characters and seeing the progression of them from the past into their present, future selves. The only thing that was kind of lacking for me was world building. They described how this time-traveling device destroys the world, just causes all this chaos, but we never really get any description of what that chaos is. I would like to have known a little bit more on that. Overall, I gave it 4 stars. The next audio I listened to was an audio version of Ashes by Ilse J. Vick. This is the first in her trilogy. I read this some time ago, and I wanted to refresh my memory before I picked up the next book. I had originally given this one 4 stars. Love the audio, by the way. I don't know the narrator off the top of my head, but she did a really, really good job, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I immediately went into Shadows, which is book 2, and I was immediately disappointed. The problem with this is there are just too many characters to keep track of within this book. And I didn't care about any of them, other than pretty much the main character, which I would have liked to have seen more of her in it. Some of the characters from the first book that we kind of lost track of. We don't know what's happened to them. I would have liked to have found more, or at least found out what happened to them in this book. Still waiting. It was just too much going on. Too many characters, too many little plot threads, and it just really lost me and really annoyed me, and I almost couldn't wait to finish it. So I only gave this one 2 stars on Goodreads. It's going to be tough picking up book 3 because it literally is a monster, and it's called Monster. It's huge, so the fact that I didn't enjoy book 2 so much, it's going to be tough picking that one up. The next one I read is a graphic novel. Won't go into a lot of detail because it's number 7 in the series. It's Why the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan, the creator of Saga. I've really been enjoying this series so far. This one was a bit slow, not a lot of action. There was a lot of flashbacks in it that kind of slowed the story down for me, and one of the characters in it happens to be a monkey. It's a male monkey that's one of these survivors of this virus that's wiped out the entire male population of any species on the planet, whether it be human or mammals or whatever. There's only one man left, one monkey left. And in this, there's a sequence where the monkey is having a nightmare. It just seemed a bit weird. So I only gave this one 3 stars. I read an adult horror novel entitled Your House is on Fire, Your Children All Gone. This is by Stephen Keesby. See that? Really enjoyed this one. Definitely creepy. It's about a small town. The beginning, the prologue opens up with several people gathered for a funeral, and one lady is rather antagonistic towards the deceased. He literally pees on the grave. You're wondering what brought that on. There's some comments going on, and then the succeeding chapters are all labeled with one of those funeral attendees' names. I can't find one right now, but they're all like flashbacks to the past. This is Christian. There's a whole bunch of them. Each chapter is a different person through a period of time of I think it's 15 years. It leads up to the eventual funeral that the story begins in. So we're getting these little snippets of flashbacks of each of these characters. They're very creepy. It's a very suspicious town. They act out under suspicions. If they're fearful, you're going to be fearful for your life. These kids are evil is the best way to describe it. It really, really creeped me out. The back describes it as Shirley Jackson meets the Twilight Zone. If you've read We Have Always Lived in the Castle, very, very similar writing style and atmosphere and characters to that book. Very, very, very similar to me, and I really enjoyed it. I overall gave this one 4 stars. Speaking of Shirley Jackson, I read The Haunting of Hill House. This was part of the Booktubeathon Read a Book and watch the movie adaptation, which I did. I watched the original movie adaptation. I really enjoyed this book. It just a great creepiness to it. I've covered a lot of these with the wrap-ups for each of these readathons, so because of that, I'll probably just put a link to those wrap-ups and not go into too much detail here of the books themselves. But to say I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I gave it 5 stars. Definitely worth picking up if you're into horror. It's not gruesome horror, too. This is that kind of Gothic-y feel horror. Also part of the Booktubeathon, my book with pictures and book with red on it. I picked up Teacher's Pest, The Tales from Lovecraft Middle School by Charles Gilman. This is book 3 in the series. This one, like they say, gave me the heebie-jeebies. It's just full of insects in this, kind of invading the school, and this one creepy kid who apparently is an insect. It's just a really great series, a great middle grade series, fun to read. I gave this one 5 stars as well. And then along that kind of Gothic horror feel, another adult horror, which was The Small Hand, a ghost story by Susan Hill. So, of course, the author of The Woman in Black. Almost forgot the title. It's about this man. He deals with rare book collections, and he's on his way to a client's house. He kind of gets lost, pulls over, wanders up to this house thinking there might be someone there he can ask directions for, but it seems to be an abandoned house. And he's just sort of standing there in the garden, which is all overgrown, and just looking out. All of a sudden he feels a small hand enter his, a small child's hand. But when he looks down, there's nobody there. And then this hand kind of, this sensation of a hand returns to him on more than one occasion, and in some cases it tries to pull him into danger. And just really, really nice, quick, short, creepy feel to it, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. Then and that was a book that someone had to choose for me for the Booktubeathon. And then also for Booktubeathon was a book in a genre that you hadn't read a lot of during the year, and that would be classics. I picked Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I just read that particular story out of this book. This book actually contains several of the short stories, which I think someone asked me might have been Charlotte over at Ramblings of an Elfpire. And just so, if you're curious, the other stories in here are The Body Snatcher, The Bottle Imp, Markheim, and Ware of Hermiston, which is apparently an unfinished story that he was working on at the time of his death, which he died quite young, in his 40s, I think. But it was great finally picking up the classic and reading the original story after having seen this numerous movies. Really enjoyed it. Of course, with the classic writing style, it can slow it down, so the pacing at times was a bit slow. Overall, I gave this 4 stars. And then also part of the Booktubeathon was to start and finish a series within that week. So I picked a duology, which was Once a Witch and Always a Witch, and these are by Carolyn McCullough, or YA, kind of paranormal. We're dealing with witches. Our main character is Tamsin Green. She comes from a long family of witches, and she's been told that she would be the most powerful among her family. Her grandmother kind of predicts this. And at age 8, they kind of manifest their abilities. This is not kind of witchcraft where they're making these potions and things like that. It's just sort of an ability that they develop at 8. It could be teleportation, things like that. But nothing manifests. Nothing happens. She is really disillusioned. At this point, she wants nothing to do with the whole witchcraft part of her family. She's off at a boarding school and just wants a normal life. But then things change. I forget how much years pass by. She's now in high school, and a man comes to her thinking she's actually her sister, who is very skilled in her abilities and things like that. And he's looking for a clock and asks her to find it, thinking she's, again, the sister. And she kind of goes along with it, thinking, I must be able to do something. I must be able to find something. Well, she ends up getting the help of a friend, an old family friend who's moved back into the area. His ability as a witch is to find lost things, and this pulls them into this quite adventure. There is actually time travel in this series, which I didn't expect, and it was very delightful. Really enjoyed it. It was a very quick read, too. Just found myself racing right through both books, and I gave both books 5 stars. Then I decided to pick up, kind of sporadically throughout the month, a manga series. I just started it, picked up the first 4 volumes. Can you see that? first 4 volumes of Attack on Titan. This is Volume 1, which I gave 5 stars to, I think all of them. Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 4. And this series is about, well, I'm not sure what time it's set in, but basically mankind is being hunted by these Titan figures. They're really large, humanistic-looking, but genderless beings that eat them for food, and they've been driven back into these walled-in cities. They're kind of circular cities surrounded on all sides, and within each wall is a series of walls. And as the story begins, the outer wall has been breached by a Titan that they have never seen before. It is almost, I don't want to say quite double the size of the wall that they'd built. They've never seen one that tall and thought they were secure. The wall's breached, the other Titans kind of start pouring in, and they have to kind of run for their lives to the next inner wall. They're sort of being driven into this. There's like no escape. If they're trapped within they're dead. So we follow our main character, Aaron, I guess the name is, and his 2 friends, and how Aaron's always wanted to kind of join this elite corps of fighters that kind of go out and attack these Titans. You can kind of see one figure right here. And they have these weird flying devices, and the only way to like really kill them is to hit a specific area on the back of their neck. And he wants to become one of these fighting crew, and he's training, and that's kind of what the main part of the, at least the beginning part of the series is he and his friends learning how to do what they need to do. And Aaron undergoes some really interesting changes fairly early on. I think it's around maybe book 3. I didn't expect that. Super cool. Really enjoyed it. Overall, the artwork is really good too. Full of action. Let me see if I can show you. Some of it can be a bit gruesome because, of course, these things are, you know, even people. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The Titan creatures are just really bizarre looking. Some crawling around on all 4s. Again, some of these are just like the action scenes. It's just a whole lot of stuff going on at once. But really enjoyed the series, and I can't wait to pick up more volumes. I think there's currently like 12 volumes out. Then another manga I picked up. This was during the Underhyped Reads readathon. And again, I did a wrap-up for that, so it'll go into more detail with individual books. But I picked up Portis by June Abe, or Abby. This is sort of an adult. Well, this is for mature audiences. There's some explicit content in it. It's about a young girl, Asami, and her friend who has stopped coming to school. She kind of doesn't answer any texts. And finally, one day she does show up, and she said she's been involved in this game called Portis. And it's kind of creeped her out. And then she kind of runs off and apparently commits suicide shortly after. This game has driven her to it. Apparently there is some sort of urban legend about this game that people end up playing it, end up dead. I think along the lines of The Ring. You watch this video, within so many days you're dead. There's also this creepy little boy character who keeps appearing in it, which reminded me of The Grudge, the movie. Yeah, so she ends up kind of investigating into it, kind of getting drawn into the game herself. There's a lot of weird things that happen, a lot of confusing things that happen. Really lost the idea of the plot as I was going on. It's like these other characters, I didn't understand what their purpose was or why they were in there. Yeah, it just had a great idea, pretty good artwork overall, but in the end, the story kind of fell flat for me, and I only gave it 2 stars. I read another graphic novel called Mercury by Hope Larson. This one I enjoyed pretty much. It takes place during 2 different eras. I think it's 2000 and I want to say 2009. Yes, 2009 and 1859. And it involves this one house sitting on French Hill in Nova Scotia, Canada. And in present day, in 2009, the house is burnt down, and the young girl that was living there is living with some cousins. But back in 1859, the girl that was living there was living with her family, her mom and dad, and I think a younger sister. And their stories are sort of joined together and linked. There's a pendant that turns up in 2009 that had fallen into possession of the girl from 1859, and there's some kind of magical realism tied in with that. And in terms of the story itself, as it shifts points of view, it also shifts background color. So, you know, in 1859 it's black backgrounds, and in 2009. It's white backgrounds, so it's easy to tell the two apart. Kind of a coming of age for both of these characters as they're progressing through the story. But overall, the story was kind of slow paced, and the ending was a bit confusing. There's this strange crow, human-faced crow at the end, which was my main complaint. I have no idea what that's supposed to be or symbolize. And that kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't understand that part at all. So overall, I gave it 3 stars. Maybe be worth like taking a rent it from the library and give it a read. And if you do, let me know if you can figure out what that crow is. The other book I read was for the underhyped reads is I Am Forgotten by J.A. St. Thomas, and this was kind of a YA survival type story. A pandemic is struck, killing all the adults, turning them, well, it kills them first, and then they kind of rise from the dead and start attacking people. And then they, again, perish shortly after that, leaving just the kids. And our main character, Jackson Riley, he's 16 years old, and he's got a younger sister in tow, and they're trying to survive, in this new world. And this book had, it's a typical survival story, and you've got, the people that are left alive just looking out for themselves in some cases. Some are good people, some are bad people. They run into a lot of interesting situations. But what was interesting about this book, and I'll say I really enjoyed the character development and the writing and the world building. It was very, very good. There was this other kind of genre kind of thrown in. There's some kind of mix in here, a surprise that I wasn't expecting. Don't want to blow it in case you decide to pick it up. But it was at first like, whoa, I don't know about this. This is a bit weird. But I just kind of went with it, and I enjoyed it. It had a really good conclusion to it in the end and everything. Maybe I would like to find a little bit differently, but overall, I really, really enjoyed it, and it was a good read. I gave it 4 stars. Also for underhyped reads, I picked up one of my middle grade series, which I've had previously read 3 of in the series, and I really enjoy it. And I think more people, if you like middle grade, if you like mysteries, you'd enjoy this one. This is by Nancy Springer. It's the Enola Holmes mystery series, and this is book 4, entitled The Case of the Peculiar Pink Fan. Just absolutely love this. This is Sherlock and Mycroft Holmes' much younger sister, and their mother has sort of disappeared, and Mycroft wants to put her in a boarding school. She's become a proper lady, but her mother's always raised her to be very independent-minded. This is around the suffragette era, and so she has other things in mind for her future, and she wants to try and find her mother, find out what's going on. And they are kind of, in a way, communicating through secret code through the paper, but she's not revealing where she's at, and Enola hasn't found her yet. And through the course of these series, she's sort of uncovering mysteries, just like her brother, both brothers really. But yeah, she is very intelligent, very headstrong, and like I said, very independent. If you flip her name around, Enola spells alone. Her mother always said, "You'll do very well alone. You'll be, fine." She's basically telling her she can be independent. And but I love the series overall. This particular one has a really great run-in with Sherlock. She's a master of disguises, just like her brother, but in this particular instance, she gets rather too close to her brother, and it's just been even more interesting. And I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. And then right after that, I just wanted to continue with the next one, and this is book 5, The Case of the Cryptic Crinoline. Again, they're very, very short reads, really quick. This one, again, I just love the character, and overall, though, in this one, the mystery that's involved in this one wasn't quite as interesting. So this one I only gave 4 stars, too. Then, I think earlier in the month, I think I read these, but I did a review for this series. This is a manga series entitled Doubt. This is volume 1 and 2. They're actually bind-ups, so it's a total of 4 individual mangas or 2 bind-ups. And it's by Yoshiki Tonagi. And like I said, I did a full review on this. I can put links below. Really enjoyed it. Think like the movie Saw, where these people are kind of kidnapped and locked up and have to do gruesome things to kind of survive. This is sort of like locked room mystery. One of the group of kids that are kind of kidnapped and locked up, one of them's a murderer, and they have to kind of uncover which that person is before they're all killed off. And it's tied in with a Japanese phone game that they were all playing, and now they're playing for real. Absolutely love this. I gave them both 5 stars, and just to give you an idea of a little bit of the art style. And Japanese mangas, so they read right to left. And This thing kept me guessing all the way to the end. Absolutely loved it. Can't recommend it enough. Then, as part of the BookTube Manga Club, which I am a member of the group on Goodreads, I'll put links to that down below as well. Our first read for July was Monster, and this is by Naoki Urasawa. This particular edition is called the Perfect Edition, which just came out this year. This is actually an 18-part manga series that's been out for a while. It's kind of rare, hard to find now, but they're reissuing it in these volumes. And I just love them. They got these French flaps. A little bit of color in the beginning. This is kind of neat. They got this kind of see-through piece where you see this face. You can't really see it too well on the camera, but it reveals his face below here. Like so, a couple color pages at the beginning. Great illustrations. A little different style than some of the typical manga that we come across. Another color section towards here. But yeah, it's about a young surgeon, a Japanese surgeon, who's moved to Germany, fallen under the kind of the watchful eye of the director of the hospital. He's sort of helping him move up quickly in the ranks of the surgeons. Gives him kind of prestigious title and everything, and allows him to do his research. Although the director's putting his name to the doctor's research papers, he's okay with that as long as he can kind of continue with his research. It's a little bit, odd, but he's just happy to be able to do what he wants to do in terms of the research and the surgeries. But and he's also kind of become close to the director's daughter. He's become engaged to her as well. So his career's looking really good, but things start to kind of cloud his opinion of both the director and the director's daughter. Their opinions of people, very class-based. They're more concerned about prestige and money and not patient care, it seems like, which is totally opposite of what the doctor is in his Hippocratic oath and everything. And when he kind of defies the director and performs surgery on a young boy who was shot in the head, he's a neurosurgeon, rather than operate on the mayor who was brought in who just had a stroke, because he was already scheduled to do this surgery, and he knows it's a very difficult surgery. Well, when the mayor dies, of course, the director just totally turns his back on him, and his career has pretty much just come to a grinding halt. His fiancée drops him, and at first he's okay with it. He's just sort of I can still continue with now I can focus more on patients. I don't have to worry about all this other stuff that the director was heaping on him. But it turns out the boy he saved is a serial killer. And shortly after, the boy and his twin sister, who was brought in at the same time, disappear. And now some of the murders that have taken place kind of look suspicious as this particular doctor, he could be a major suspect. And now he is off searching for both the boy and the twin sister to see if he can put a stop to him. And he's also on the run from the police. There's lots of great other action in here and finding out about this boy and stuff as we're reading it. It's, like I said, it's an 18-part manga series. I just read the first 2 volumes. I really can't wait to find out what happens next. The next Perfect Edition, I believe, comes out in October of this year. So I've been able to read some of it online, but I'm definitely picking up the volumes as they're released. So yeah, I give this one 5 stars. Highly recommend it if you're into manga, or just a really good story. And the last thing I read is a trilogy, which I was already planning on reading through, and I read, I think, the last book it was during, I think it was BookTubeathon. It was part of my 7 books in the week. And that is the Monument 14 series by Emmy Laybourne. This is the first book, Monument 14. And by the way, I absolutely love these covers. Each cover really represents what's going on in that particular book. Then the book 2 is Sky on Fire, and book 3 is Savage Drift. And I also put a link down below to the review I did of the series. Absolutely love the whole plot. It's basically an environmental disaster strikes, stranding these kids in this Greenway superstore, and their struggle to survive and get to safety. And yeah, there's just lots of things they have to face besides hailstorms and earthquakes. There's natural gas, not a natural gas, it's a gas leak from a NORAD facility, and it's almost like a warfare type gas. It affects people based on their blood type, turning some violent, some it will kill, and others turn sterile. And this really kind of plays a major impact throughout the story as well. It has a lot of shifting points of view between all 3 of the books. So we have different characters that we're kind of seeing out of their eyes and what's going on. And the author does a really great job of keeping the story going with action, and we can also follow a lot of where they're at based on like the maps that are included with each book. While they're on the road traveling, when they're in the Greenway Superstore, changes they've made to the Superstore, just all sorts of things, camps they find themselves in. Really great characters, world building. I love everything about this. It's like an unput-downable series. You just wanted to marathon your way through it once you started. And I gave each one of these 5 stars. So I think that's it. Hopefully this video hasn't been too long. I'm going to go ahead and close it out now. And I think my next video up will probably be a book haul, because I did book haul / movie haul. I haven't really done that before, but I did pick up some DVDs, and I'll throw them in there too. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys have read any of these or if you think about it. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.